It's 1:30 in the morning in Bensalem, Pennsylvania, 20 miles north of the city of Philadelphia. Joseph Lear is at a bus stop waiting for a ride from his friend Christian. And Christian, who is normally incredibly reliable, just isn't showing up. So now Mr. Lear takes a cab to Christian's house with every intention of giving Christian a piece of his mind as to why he left him abandoned at 1:30 in the morning. All the lights are off. It looks as if nobody's there. What's going on? He steps into this house in the dark. Mr. Lear turns around and sees that the interior of this place looks like a bomb went off in it. He instinctively knows that something is very wrong indeed, and it frightens him.
Christian?
He begins to search the home. He pushes the bathroom door open.
Oh my God, Christian!
And staggers backwards because he is stricken with terror. I spent my career closing murder cases. But I'm not the only one who answered the call. It takes a rare breed to solve the unsolvable, to catch a ruthless killer, to find justice for the dead. That's what it takes to be an American detective.
I'm Detective Chris McMullen. I work for the Bensalem Police Department. In 2005, I was a detective in the Criminal Investigations Division. It was in the middle of the night. A headquarters call woke me up. Whenever there's a homicide, they call everybody in. So I take a deep breath and know that it's going to be a long night. In this particular case, I went right to the crime scene. There was marked patrol cars there. Nobody can go in, nobody can go out.
McMullen is informed that there's a 27-year-old individual no longer alive whose name is Christian Rojas.
Christian was from Costa Rica. He had grown up there. He went to a gifted high school, and he had become a skilled web designer and computer expert. One of the reasons he was in the United States was to work for a computer firm.
When you enter a crime scene, you don't want to disturb anything. I was always taught the first thing to do is put your hands in your pocket so you don't screw anything up by touching it. I entered the living room, and it was obvious to me that there had been some type of ransacking. Cushions were ripped open, furniture was moved, everything was out of place.
This is not the usual burglary. This place has been destroyed. Whoever was in here was convinced there was something of great value to them concealed somewhere in this house. And they tore the place apart to find it.
I saw a photograph that was originally on the wall. It was broken, and it had 3 people in it, 2 men and a woman. It was determined that the decedent was one of the 2 men in that photograph.
It's interesting that this photograph has been purposely destroyed. Is that something that speaks to emotion, where someone is so angry they break the picture? Or is it because people hide things in picture frames as well?
As I started walking towards the bathroom, I'm seeing some blood on the walls, some on the carpet.
So this begins in the hallway. The victim is being savagely assaulted and retreating toward the bathroom to avoid the attack. When McMullen pushes open that bathroom door, he smells an unmistakable smell that you never, ever forget. The smell of death.
I remember seeing the victim in the bathtub, and I thought to myself, who could do this to somebody? It was an awful, terrible crime scene. The tub was filled with water, but the water was black, and there was a pillow over the face of the decedent. He had had a sock stuffed in his mouth, socks wrapped around his neck.
McMullen notices the imprint of a human face in blood on the ceramic wall of the bathtub. This is very, very violent.
I remember thinking that this poor individual did not die a quick death. It seemed to me that he had been beaten and tortured. It just made it very evident to me that this person more than likely knew who it was who attacked them, and that there was some type of emotional anger motivation behind it. In the water, there was just various condoms floating. They had been removed from a box and thrown into the water, almost like a symbolic gesture.
McMullen's mind drifts back to that crushed photograph.
The condoms reinforced my thinking that maybe the two men in the photograph both had an interest in the female, and maybe this had to do with jealousy and had gotten way out of hand.
The level of violence indicates personal motivation. It says emotion. And emotion often comes from love interrupted. McMullen thinks about this based on his own experience. You have evidence of home invasion, evidence of a robbery, evidence of search for valuables and or narcotics. But then you have overkill in the bathroom. It's like a mixture of potential motives. Very difficult to say whether this is all about the search and all about the failure of the search, or is it about, I hate you because you've been involved with my girlfriend. So he's left with this state of confusion.
Hey, Richie, where's the guy that called us in?
He's right over there.
McMullen interviews Joseph Lear right away. He knows that he's got to start with the first person that found the body.
He was very nervous. He was running on adrenaline. He had probably experienced the most terrifying thing that he had ever gone through in his life.
What can you tell us about Christian?
He was one of my best friends.
Joseph Lear and Christian met in Costa Rica at some point. Ben Salem was the Lear's hometown, and when Christian relocated to the United States, he suggested that Christian come there.
Even though he had only been in the United States a few years, Christian did well with people. He was an affable person, someone that people wanted to be around, and he was also very much in touch with his family still.
He had family back in Costa Rica, a mother and a couple sisters. He would send them most of his money, so he lived very modestly.
Mr. Lear can't imagine Mr. Rojas having an enemy in the world. Mr. Rojas has never used narcotics, has no criminal record, which McMullen confirms. He is your everyday, innocent person carrying on a career in the United States.
When I showed Joseph Lear the photograph that had Christian and the other couple in it, he told me that that was Mark Russo and his wife, Sarah.
He reports that they used to live together. They were roommates with Christian Rojas, but Christian moved out. The question becomes, under what circumstances did Christian move out?
I had this thought go through my mind that, is this some type of a love triangle?
Then the question becomes, in McMullen's mind, well, who loves who? The old expression is certainly true in affairs of the heart. Two's company and three is a crowd. Was Christian the crowd, or was he part of the company? and somebody decided it was time for him to go away permanently. 27-year-old Christian Rojas is found murdered in his home in Ben Salem, Pennsylvania. Detective McMillan believes there might be, a love triangle at the basis of this crime.
At this point, we wanted to find out about Mark Russo and his wife, Sarah. But before I was able to even obtain contact information from Mark Russo, he actually showed up at the police station on his own.
Did Russo present himself because he's fishing for information from the police about what they know or what they may suspect? Or is he just concerned about his friend? McMullen considers those 2 points.
Sometimes people show up with good intentions. Also, sometimes people show up because they want to interject themselves into the investigation. We needed to speak with him and find out where he was and what he knew.
So, how exactly did Christian come to live with you and your wife?
Well, we actually met in Costa Rica.
He explained that he had actually helped Christian find work here in the United States. He did live with him and his wife, although him and his wife weren't married at the time, but their relationship was blooming, and in a gesture to allow them their privacy, Christian then moved out and got his own place.
Mark pointed out it wasn't acrimonious. They remained friends after this.
I asked Mark, did Christian ever have any type of attraction to your wife, or was there anything like that going on? And he said, absolutely not. He was not concerned about that, and just like Joe Lear, he seemed to be sincerely upset and blown away by what had happened.
McMullen finds him to be quite believable. So Mr. Russo is out as a suspect.
With any homicide, you want to learn the victimology. So we wanted to know about, did he have any roommates? Was he in a relationship? Where did he work?
He thought like a girlfriend.
Well, he does have an ex.
Mark told us about a girl named Heather that Christian had been involved with.
He was under the impression it was over. Though, about a week earlier, the girl had reached out to Christian.
She needed a place to stay. And Mr. Russo said that Christian was a warm-hearted, caring person, and he would not allow anyone to suffer because of his unwillingness to take care of them. So he allowed her to stay with him in the very recent past.
Well, that added something new to what we were looking at. I wanted to find out what Heather's last name was, and when was the last time he saw her.
I only met her once or twice. But I can ask around. By the way, what'd you guys do with Christian's car?
Russo said, I had this old car, green in color, that had a lot of miles on it, and Christian didn't have a car, so I gave it to him.
The car was not anywhere to be found in the apartment complex where Christian lived. So at that point, the car was missing.
Where is it? The only place it could be is in the hands of a murderer.
Knowing that there was a car involved and that the car was now missing was huge. That then led us to believe, okay, if we can find the car, then maybe we can find the killer.
So McMullen puts out this description of this vehicle stolen in the course of a homicide. So if any policeman anywhere sees this car in motion, they're going to stop the car and arrest the contents.
In the meantime, we're looking for clues. We're looking to link things together.
Often at a crime scene, you can't clearly see a body. The lighting isn't very good. The position of the body obstructs certain wounds. So it has to be done in a coroner's office under bright light.
The rate of decomposition showed that Christian was probably dead for approximately 2 days before he was discovered.
It's a horrible situation. The victim suffered enormously during the course of his demise. He had lacerations and head wounds from being bludgeoned with a blunt instrument of some type. He'd either been knee dropped or kicked in the chest with a serious bruise in the sternum.
There were other injuries to his body, but they were just methods of torture. What had caused Christian's death was actually blunt force trauma and asphyxiation.
The coroner says that the knot of the tube sock around the neck was sufficient to restrict the air supply, The victim had bitten through his lip with his teeth, struggling to get air in his system.
There were no defensive wounds noted on Christian's body at the autopsy, indicating that whoever had attacked him had immediately overpowered him and that there wasn't much of a contest.
So McMullen believes he's probably looking for somebody quite a bit bigger than Rojas to be able to control him, to attack him in the manner in which he was attacked. Who would do this?
Christian's family was in Costa Rica, and obviously word had gotten to them, and they were devastated. For me, the driving force is always the victim, getting justice for the victim and their families. So in this case, it was all about Christian.
Well, I've known Detective McMullen for 28 years. He doesn't stop. He'll keep drilling down and drilling, and if he gets assigned to your case, chances are you're not going to be able to run from it.
Any hits on Christian's car? Nothing yet, but these phones have been ringing all morning.
Word travels quickly. It had gotten out in the community that somebody had been murdered in their home, and that police had yet to identify and/or apprehend the suspects.
Detective McMullen.
This is a scary crime that has happened in a suburban town. People are reacting to it. They were horrified.
In Bencio, our crime that we're dealing with is mainly thefts and property crime, burglaries. We don't get a lot of homicides. If we get half a dozen homicides a year, that's a lot for us.
This was about the 4th homicide that I've been involved with since I'd become a detective. So there's definitely pressure. There's pressure from the boss.
McMullen and his department are overwhelmed by a number of tips that are meaningless and somewhat nonsensical from people who are in panic mode. Oh my God, the violence has entered Ben Salem, because it's never been true before. The community's reacting to their fear level is what's happening, and they're creating these false people who may be murderers all over the place.
When tips come in, I mean, we have to look into them, and if they're good tips, obviously, then they're helpful to us. Sometimes the problem is you get inundated with them, and if a lot of them really don't have any value, you still have to look into them, and it takes up time and manpower and resources.
But one tip does come in that has some value.
I've been contacted by a journalist for the Bucks County Courier-Times. He had received an email from a gentleman who is a friend of Christian Rojas's.
Check out this email I just got.
The email went on to explain that Christian Rojas had recently been offered a dream job in Costa Rica for an American company who had relocated there. The writer of the email goes on to say that Rojas's current employer was very distressed about Rojas leaving his employment.
Christian had told this person that his employers had the ability to do bad things and that he was somewhat frightened of them.
At first, the information that Christian's employers would want him dead seems a little far-fetched. But for McMullen, there was a catch.
Christian Rojas worked for a cash advance company run by Anthony and Mario Moretti. And having done a little bit of research on them, it was verified their father had had some mafia ties.
Now that raises McMullen's eyebrow.
If there was a connection like that, it wouldn't be too far-fetched to think that if Christian was leaving the company under bad terms, that something may have escalated to violence.
The next step is obvious. Who are these brothers? They're either part of this or they're not, and McMullen has to find the answer to it. Many leads have come forward, none of which have much value, but now McMullen is pursuing a new lead that may have some meaning. 2 brothers that might be connected to the Italian mafia in the city of Philadelphia and South Jersey.
Police say the victim has strong ties to organized crime.
Throughout the city's history, there has been organized crime, theft, racketeering, gambling.
Police this afternoon combed the shooting scene at 6th and Catherine for evidence.
Connected with a number of different families. The Scarfo family was a particular family that was very involved.
Now, in 2005, the Italian mafia was a mere shadow of its former self. That doesn't make them any less dangerous. They remain more than capable of extreme violence.
Well, now we're wondering, did they have something to do with this? So we contacted them by phone and made arrangements to go visit them at their office. I'm trying to determine whether or not they have any type of anger towards Christian, but they seem to be fond of Christian.
They both say Christian Rojas was an incredibly competent computer programmer, that Rojas was their go-to guy to solve problems when they encountered them in the business.
How did you guys feel about Christian leaving the company?
They were obviously not happy about that, but they liked him so well that they wouldn't stand in his way.
They seemed sincere in the fact that they wanted him to succeed. They seemed legitimately distraught over what had happened. We were able to verify their alibis. They were all home at their respective residences.
Despite their connections to nefarious people, they're not involved in this.
They definitely wanted the crime solved. They made that very clear. They offered their resources. They really wanted to take an active role in what was going on.
Did they take the safe?
Wait a minute, what's safe?
And they told us that he had a safe that he kept cash in. He would cash his paycheck and then convert it to money orders to send home to his family in Costa Rica.
McMullen was certainly aware that there was no safe found in Christian Rojas's house. Somebody took it. Someone who knew it was there.
At this point, McMullen is starting to get some answers, but he really doesn't have a full-fledged suspect yet.
There's a safe that was stolen and his car is missing. So at this point, it's a robbery and a homicide. We've spoken with everybody and we're satisfied with those people and what they've had to tell us. But there's still his ex-girlfriend, Heather, and at this point, she's the only wild card because we don't know where she is. We don't have a last name for her.
Later that afternoon, McMullen's partner says we looked over the answering machine that Christian had in his house, and we discovered these messages. You need to listen to these because it's really kind of interesting.
Christian, please, I don't know what else to do. You said you would help me. I need your help really badly, please.
The first one was Heather, and she was distraught. She was crying.
Why won't you please talk to me? I really, really need to talk to you. Please answer the phone.
The next message was from Heather again.
Christian, call me the back now.
But her demeanor had gone from distraught to angry.
Heather's statements certainly put a different light on how you look at her.
After hearing those messages, it started to make me think that it's possible that she could have been involved with this homicide.
She would certainly know his habits. She would certainly know about his safe. Who is she?
So the next day, Mark Russo did get back to me, and he told me that he was able to get her full name, and she was identified as Heather Lavelle. We went into our master names index, and we pulled a photo of her.
She's 36 years of age. She's very tall, natural blonde, considered to be very attractive.
We had learned that she was a very educated person, and there was a time that she had a very good paying job in the insurance industry.
She was in an assistant vice president position making well over $140,000 a year.
So here is a college graduate, tall and lovely, making very good money, who all of a sudden has to stay with Christian Rojas because she's fallen on hard times. How could that be true?
Upon doing an inquiry on her name, it was discovered that recently Heather Lavelle had been arrested for possession of drug paraphernalia. Unfortunately, due to addictions, she had lost her job and lost her home.
People who become involved in depression, in losing their way, believe that drugs are the magic that will make that all go away. The difficulty is, it is magic, but it's black magic, and it will destroy you every single time.
Aside from the arrest for the drug paraphernalia, there was also a domestic disturbance. It showed that Heather Lavelle had been in a fight with her boyfriend, James Savage. She just basically wanted to get her belongings and leave.
But after police showed up, she decided not to pursue any further charges, despite signs there had been physical violence.
We started to compile background information on James Savage, and we learned that he did have a criminal history. In fact, he had a violent criminal history.
Savage is a widower, but there's a report from his wife that he had threatened her with a rifle, and she had obtained a protection from abuse order against him.
He was a big guy. He's a physically intimidating guy. He's about 6'4", well over 250 pounds.
Given the violence from the crime scene, it was likely somebody with a lot of force and ability to exert that force on another person. Savage matched that description.
So McMillan says, okay, Heather's fallen on hard times, and she asked Christian if she can stay there because of this issue between her and her current boyfriend. What if her current boyfriend misunderstands that and doesn't believe that Christian Rojas is offering help, but he's somehow re-involved with his girlfriend?
We got the address of James Savage from the police report and went to that residence in an attempt to make contact with him.
Can I help you?
We're looking for James Savage.
We are met by his mother, Jackie Savage. She told us that her son wasn't there. She verified that he was having a relationship with Heather Lavelle, and that he told her that they were going to go to the shore for the weekend.
Jackie tells police that the last time she saw them, they were unloading some of Heather's belongings out of Jackie's car, and they're transferring it over to a different car.
What kind of car?
She says to Detective McMillan, they were in a small green car. I'd never seen that car before.
I didn't think Heather had a car.
Oh, really? Well, my. Now, isn't that interesting?
As far as we're concerned, they're most likely driving Christian's car, which means that they're connected to the homicide.
There's always a moment in a criminal investigation. It's a moment of euphoria. When somebody says something that means nothing to them and means everything to you. Everything.
You said they were heading to the shore. Which shore?
He didn't specifically say where, he just said to the shore.
Ben, Salem, Pennsylvania is very close to the Atlantic Ocean, to the Delaware coast, to the Maryland coast, North Carolina, Virginia. They could be anywhere, really.
You mind giving your son a call for us?
Okay.
Do you mind if we come in while you make that call?
Oh, sure.
When people kill, they are in an emotional state like they've never been in their lives. They're desperate. They don't know what to do. They just want to run. What are you going to do, James? You're going to go to the shore? You're going to swim to Europe? Is that your plan?
Hello?
Jimmy,
What?
what's going on? You told me, that you were going to the shore. Are you all right?
Are the police looking for me?
Yeah.
Can you wire me money?
I don't know where you are to do that. Maybe you should call and talk to the cops
No.
and tell them what's going on.
No.
Maybe she can call.
What did he tell you? Who can call?
Heather.
Why? She don't want to talk to me either.
He didn't say anything about coming home or coming back. He had made mention that she may never see him again.
I love you. I don't know what's going on, son. If you guys are in trouble, then you need to talk to the cops or something.
No, we can't talk to the cops. Can you wire me any money or not?
Where?
Bye.
It seemed as though, from the context of the short phone call, that they were on the run. They seemed desperate for money. There was concerns as to what they were going to do next.
Savage is in desperation mode. He's violent, he's a drug addict, and now he's scared. What's he capable of? Anything.
We wanted to find James Savage, and at the same time, we were worried about Heather's safety because it wasn't clear to us what her role in this was. Did he use her to get into Christian's apartment? Did he force her to flee with him? So at that point, we decided we wanted to track the cell phone used by James Savage.
They ping the locations on that cell phone, comes back to the Delaware coast.
We have no reason to believe they have friends or relatives there where they could stay, so we decided to start checking local hotels. There was one hotel that was checked, and it was determined that they had just checked out earlier that day.
They go in that motel and contact the manager. She provides them with a registration form and says that Savage was accompanied by a tall, blonde girl who said nothing during the registration process. They check the surveillance footage, and there is James Savage and Heather Lavelle.
Exterior video cameras from the same establishment showed them getting into a green car and leaving, which is the car that we believe belonged to Christian. We asked if we could go inside the room, and according to the hotel staff, the room had not even been cleaned yet.
In the hotel room, there are stained towels, red and black.
It appeared as though somebody had dyed their hair in a very quick manner without cleaning up afterwards. I don't think that people just hit the road and just abruptly dye their hair color for no real reason at all.
They alert law enforcement they're still in the suspect vehicle somewhere on this coastal highway, and that they are now changed their hair color. Police publicize these photographs of these two individuals to be placed in the evening news and newspapers.
The next day, there was a call on the line from the police in Nags Head, North Carolina. They had located the green car that we were looking for.
They make a traffic stop. As the officer steps out of his car to approach them, they take off. He gets back in the car and pulls out a high-speed pursuit, close to 100 miles an hour down this highway. They are coming south, and they are smoking.
During this chase, the police employed stop sticks. It's something that you roll out in front of a fleeing vehicle, and when the car goes over it, it punctures the tires.
And they run through it in that small green car and shred the tires off the rims, and the car grinds to a stop in the ditch.
Both the driver and the passenger got out and ran in two separate directions.
Now the chase is on. Only this time it's on foot. Desperation causes this behavior. You are terror-stricken. You're not thinking clearly. You're thinking, feet don't fail me now. Detective McMullen's two primary suspects have been pursued by the police in Nags Head, North Carolina.
Police! Fill me in! Go, go, go.
They refused to stop, and it turned into a long, drawn-out pursuit.
Police!
The reality is, when you run from the police, you're not going to escape. You're just going to be very tired and soaking wet when you get arrested. Why go through the exhaustion? Turn around and put up your hands.
Ultimately, they were both apprehended by officers. Our next step was we have to get down to Nag's Head. So we made travel arrangements pretty quickly. The first thing we did, we had gotten a search warrant for the car, and we found clothing that we believed belonged to Christian. It had blood on it. We found a set of brass knuckles, and those brass knuckles also had blood on them.
So we have a trail of evidence that comes out of Christian Rojas's house into the trunk of the car being driven by James Savage and his companion Heather Lavelle. Yet another nail in their respective coffins.
We talked to James first. He's a big, scary guy. And you could tell he was just mad at the world. And having seen what he had done, it was unnerving to be seated next to him. We told him, look, we're down here to talk to you about Christian Rojas. We know that you were there. We know that you were involved.
I may have been there, but it was these other dudes.
He said that he and Heather had been at Christian's house and that 3 other people came in and did a home invasion robbery, and that he and Heather barely got out. So he basically told us a story to try and see if we would buy that. We asked him, so why did you steal Christian's car? And he's like, well, we just grabbed the first set of keys we could and we wanted to get away. You know, obviously they had taken the time to pack that car and we knew that.
Savage is just puking lies, said McMullen. He just can't stop.
Want to smoke?
McMullen doesn't want Savage to see him as an enemy. He wants Savage to calm himself to some degree.
We brought up Heather. And we asked him, did something bad happen between Heather and Christian that you were upset about? And he started to talk to us when we approached it that way.
I just went over there to talk to the guy.
James Savage had a jealousy issue with Christian due to the relationship that Heather had had with him.
He says there's an exchange of words between he and Christian, and a fight breaks out.
He said Christian picked up a set of brass knuckles. He got really angry about that and disarmed Christian and then really started to assault him in a very violent manner.
Savage says Christian Rojas becomes unconscious. So he and Heather leave. And when they return, they find him dead in the bathtub. Oh my God, how could this have happened?
He said, so we tried to make the whole thing look like a robbery by tying up his body after he was already dead.
It's a preposterous story to try to explain away his lack of involvement in this crime. So ultimately, despite his attempt at lying profusely, he's incriminating himself in the death of Christian Rojas. So if James Savage wasn't going to be truthful, maybe Heather would be truthful to us. We want to hear her account of what happened. One of the first things we said to her was, we said, are you okay? Did he force you to come down here?
No.
I'm not under any duress, was the words that she used. It made me believe that she could have been a willing participant in this homicide.
Tell us about your relationship with Christian.
It didn't last very long, maybe about a month.
She had told us that for a while he was pretty happy with her, but then when he realized that she had a drug problem, he had to let her go. We talked about her fall from grace, how at one time she was doing really well. And once she started smoking crack cocaine, there was no turning back. She would beg, borrow, and steal to get money to buy drugs.
So when Heather broke up with Christian Rojas, she goes and finds another boyfriend. When drug users find another person like themselves, who has the same taste for narcotics, there is no limit to what they will do. They will take their grandmother's rings off her fingers when grandma is in her coffin, if they can convert it into money to feed their habit.
After James Savage and Heather Lavelle had that domestic dispute, Heather left James. She had nowhere to go, and she wound up going back to Christian and asking him for help, and he let her in.
Heather knew that she could go to Christian because Christian was kind, Christian was loving, Christian cared about people.
But then you went back to James.
Yeah.
Because, of course, she still needs narcotics. You have to help me. I need more drugs. Then she tells Savage about Christian, and she also tells him he has a safe in his house.
It was starting to become clear to us that Heather was the brains behind this. Heather still had a key to Christian's house.
They wanted drug money, and Christian was the potential source.
They found a safe and broke it open. They found like $40.
What the hell is this?
Now they're angry because they wanted to have a good score and they didn't get it. So they waited for him to arrive home.
What are you doing here? What the hell is going on here?
Where's the money, Christian?
When he arrived home, her and James confronted him.
Answer her! I just sent some money home, okay? Everything that's left is in the safe, okay?
Why?
James is in a jealous rage and immediately sparks fly.
Where is it? I swear, I'm not lying, no!
The fight between Christian and James was like David and Goliath. There was no contest.
You got the money somewhere.
Heather was very paranoid that somebody was going to hear them. At some point, she took a sock and jammed it into his throat.
Christian's last moments were terrifying.
James threw the condoms in the bathtub because he was angry that Heather and Christian had slept together. It proved that jealousy was definitely a factor in this murder. In the panic, they tried to make the whole thing look like a robbery.
Heather knew exactly what she was doing. She was the architect of the scheme.
She brought Savage into Christian's house, and she enabled everything to happen. As far as I'm concerned, she is absolutely as guilty as Savage of killing Christian.
Both James Savage and Heather Lavelle were extradited back to Pennsylvania.
They were charged with homicide and related offenses. They were originally facing the death penalty. However, the trial never occurred because both of them pled guilty.
They both were sentenced to life in prison, where they remain to this day.
I was just happy that the case was resolved and that they were convicted and going to jail, and they were never going to be in society again where they could give in to their demons of addiction and hurt anybody again.
McMullen is like any other detective in the United States. Anywhere, really. You are faced with a plate full of spaghetti, tangled in a gigantic knot. Your job is to unravel that knot. And McMullen did precisely that. He unraveled it carefully and slowly and technically to where this is the result. The people responsible, life in prison. It's how it's supposed to work. It's how it does work. Because of detectives like Detective McMullen.
I did get to meet Christian's family. And they were there when the sentence was actually imposed. I know that they gave victim impact statements.
They were very vocal about the fact that the conviction, while important, didn't bring him back.
Christian was loved by a lot of people. You know, he was a good soul. He was a trusting person. Unfortunately, he had opened his door to some evil people. Human nature can get very low.
Christian Rojas, 27 years of age, truly innocent, well-educated, comes to America to live the American dream. And what he discovers is the American nightmare in the person of one Heather Lavelle. Not Christian's plan, but certainly the result. How sad is that?
You had managers playing games, staff drinking on the job, and a young girl trying to hide her relationship with a man her parents might not approve of. The investigation became a parade of characters, each one more suspicious than the last. You had the manager who volunteered information nobody asked for, a man whose initials matched the ones a psychic supposedly whispered into the wind. Then you had Michael Bartelt, the cook who suddenly decides he has a trip to Hawaii and quits his job just days after a girl disappears. These people are the kind of lowlives who think they are smarter than the law. They lie about where they were, they lie about who they saw, and they play games with the truth until it becomes unrecognizable. I have spent my life looking into the eyes of such men, and I can tell you, the guilt is always there, hiding behind a smirk or a poorly rehearsed alibi. The evidence is a trail of breadcrumbs leading to nowhere. A gold clutch purse, an appointment book, and photos of a graduation portrait shredded like confetti along a rural road. The killer was moving, shedding the skin of his crime as he traveled across 25 miles of Wisconsin landscape. Then comes a second dump site, a white cardboard box near a farmhouse, containing the remaining bones. It was a second, deliberate act of disposal. The killer was not just hiding a body. He was staging a macabre tour of the countryside. I look at the profile of this crime, and I see a predator who felt safe, who knew these back roads better than the back of his own hand. For 19 years, the case sat in the cold, dark files of the sheriff's office, waiting. Then comes a sister, a woman who breaks the silence to point the finger at her own blood. She paints a picture of a man who was not just a killer, but a monster who preyed on his own family. It is a story that repeats itself in every precinct in this country. The monster hiding in plain sight, protected by mothers who lie and siblings who stay silent out of fear. But even then, the DNA science was in its infancy. They tested, they searched, and they came up with partial profiles that were not enough to lock the door. You have to wonder about the nature of the beast. Is it the cook who changed his story every time the wind blew? Is it the man like Wilbert Mackey, a creature who allegedly forced his own children to witness the disposal of the body? Or is it a stranger, some nameless drifter with military training and a penchant for surgical precision who moved across the country, leaving a trail of broken girls in his wake? The truth has a way of hiding, buried under decades of bureaucracy, jurisdictional lines, and the plain, old-fashioned incompetence of men who should have been paying closer attention. Stephanie Casper deserved better. She deserved to celebrate her 18th birthday. She deserved to grow old, to have a career, to love who she chose. Instead, she became a subject of debate in a file folder, a name on a memorial wall. And her family, the brothers who grew up in the shadow of her loss, the parents who lived out their days wondering who took their daughter, they are the ones who bear the true, heavy weight of this evil. It ripples through the years, never stopping, never fading. This case is not finished. Not while people like Lieutenant Van Sock are still out there fighting the bureaucracy and chasing ghosts across state lines. The DNA technology is getting better every single day. The secrets that were buried in 1969 are finally being forced into the light of the 21st century. If you know something, you speak up. It is the only way to balance the scales. Because in the end, justice is not about the process, and it is not about the politics. It is about giving a voice to the girl who was silenced. and making sure that the monster who took her life finally pays a price. That is the job. That is the truth. And that is all that really matters. Human beings are strange creatures. They complicate their lives with lies and debts. And then they act surprised when the house of cards comes crashing down. You look at a case like this, and you realize that some people would rather invent a conspiracy than admit the mundane, painful truth about the person sleeping right next to them. My, you have to be kidding me. We are talking about Melissa Casillas, a woman who vanished into thin air on the 26th of June, 2025. On the surface, the narrative is a tug-of-war between two factions. In one corner, you have the husband, Mark Casillas, a man who knows how to read the land, claiming his wife simply walked away to escape a financial nightmare. In the other, you have the Mondragons, the parents and siblings, who see a man whose story changes like the wind, a man who seemingly thrives on control and conflict. I tell you, when you look at the evidence with investigators, things start to crawl out of the woodwork. You have the factory reset phones, not once but twice at different times. That is not an accident. That is intent. That is someone trying to burn a bridge before they cross it, or perhaps someone trying to sanitize their digital footprint before they are erased. And the muddy boots sitting in the bedroom, right next to a spot that tested presumptive positive for blood, Mark points to a fish tank and a lack of spider webs. But an investigator knows that when you start making excuses before anyone has even asked a question, you are already building a wall. But then, the twist, that video footage from a house off Highway 518. There she is, at 2:18 in the afternoon, walking briskly, backpack on her shoulders, alone, alive. It flies in the face of the family's theory that she was incapable of leaving. It makes you wonder about the human psyche. What kind of pressure, what level of internal despair drives a mother, a professional, a wife, to decide that the only way to solve her problems is to cease to exist in her own life? You see the inner turmoil of the victim. If she was indeed the one who wiped those devices, she was a woman harboring a secret so profound she could not risk a single byte of data surviving. She wasn't just running, she was deleting herself. But what about the husband? Mark presents himself as the victim of an abandoned marriage, yet he displays an abrasive, defensive posture that would make any seasoned detective lean in closer. He talks about her being a flight risk, then criticizes a search, then offers up coded social media posts. It is exhausting to watch. It is the behavior of a man who is either desperately searching for his wife or desperately trying to steer the investigation away from his own front door. I have spent decades looking at the wreckage of human lives. I have seen the damage left behind when someone decides to walk out. It is a callous act. To leave a daughter, to leave a life without a word, it leaves a scar that never quite heals. And the ambiguity in this case is a rot. The police are waiting on lab results that seem to take an eternity. They are brushing aside leads about blue trucks and decapitated bodies, as if they were mere annoyances. It is a failure process that breeds suspicion, and suspicion, once planted, grows into a forest of resentment. Every time I look at the details, I keep coming back to the silence. Melissa had a life, a daughter, a routine, and then she didn't. Whether she walked away into the arms of someone helping her shed her skin, or whether she walked into a trap, the mystery remains. You have to ask yourself, what were they so afraid of that they had to wipe the past clean? Was it the debt? Was it the career? The classified clearances? The secrets held within the walls of a place like Los Alamos? Some might call it conspiracy. I call it a tragedy born from a lack of transparency. When the truth is treated like a commodity to be managed, you end up with a missing woman and a family torn apart by mutual distrust. It is a mess. A cold, calculated, and deeply sad mess. And the most chilling part? We may never know if she chose this ending or someone else decided for her. People are unpredictable, and that is the most dangerous thing about them. Human beings are strange creatures. They kill for the most ridiculous reasons you could ever imagine. Sometimes it is not even about a reason at all. It is about a dark, creeping hunger inside the human soul, an appetite for violence that just waits for the right moment, the right quiet room, and a lock that was left unsecured. My, I tell you, in my 36 years of looking into the dark corners of the human mind, I have seen every excuse under the sun. But when a 19-year-old girl is found beaten to death in her boyfriend's bed on a quiet afternoon in Winsboro, Texas, you do not look at the horizon. You look right under your nose. Because in a town that small, a circle that tight, somebody inside knows exactly what happened. The date was May 4th, 2007. Patricia McGlone, a mother who lived with that constant, quiet worry every parent of a young girl carries, received a phone call. It was mid-afternoon, around 3:30. The caller was Jeff Stogner, her daughter's boyfriend. Right off the bat, this is strange. Patricia was not a fan of Jeff. He was 21, living at home, drifting through life without a stable job, carrying a sort of dark, heavy energy that made a mother's instincts scream. They did not have casual chats. Yet here he was, asking if she had heard from Brittany. Brittany McGlone was 19 years old. She was a girl with a future, a kid working her fingers to the bone. She held down an overnight shift at the Lowe's distribution center, getting off before 5 in the morning, and she worked a second job at a discount store called Alco. Why? Because she had a dream. She wanted to go to nursing school. She wanted to help people. When you look at a victim like Brittany, you see a bright, determined light. When you look at her killer, you see a shadow that wanted nothing more than to put that light out. Normally, Brittany would have gone straight to her own home after her grueling night shift to sleep. But on this morning, she broke her routine. She went to Jeff's house instead, just to spend a little time with him before he and his stepdad had to drive a couple of hours away to pick up his grandmother. That small, innocent change in her schedule, the one night she did not go home, proved fatal. Jeff told Patricia that he had been trying to call Brittany all day from the road, but her cell phone just kept ringing. Patricia, now feeling that cold knot of dread tightening in her stomach, tried calling her daughter over and over. No answer. When she called Jeff back, he was just pulling into his driveway. He told her, never mind, her truck is parked outside. She must just be sleeping really hard. But she was not sleeping. When Jeff walked into his bedroom, he found Brittany. She was lying in his bed, completely naked. The scene was one of absolute brutal savagery. There was blood on the sheets, on the pillow, and cast-off blood splattered on the wall behind a headboard. The unmistakable signature of a victim struck repeatedly with tremendous force. The weapon, which investigators later believed to be a heavy metal tool like a tire iron or crowbar, was nowhere to be found. Yet nothing else in the room was disturbed. Her jeans and boots were right where she had left them on the floor. Jeff claimed she had been wearing a t-shirt and underwear when she got into bed with him earlier. That morning, the shirt was still in the room, but her underwear was gone, taken. A trophy, perhaps, or a desperate attempt to cover up a sexual assault. But here's the detail that makes my blood run cold. In the bathroom, investigators found unmistakable signs that the killer had taken a shower. Think about that for a second. You had just bludgeoned a 19-year-old girl to death. The room is painted in her blood. Instead of running, instead of panicking, you walk into the bathroom, turn on the water, and wash your life off your skin. That is not the behavior of a panicked stranger. That is the behavior of someone who felt comfortable in that house. Someone who knew they had time. Initially, the sheriff's deputies looked hard at Jeff and his stepdad. The stepdad claimed he had seen Brittany alive and sleeping around 9 in the morning, right before he and Jeff left for the road trip. To leave the house, they literally had to pass right through Jeff's bedroom. If Jeff was the killer, he had a very short window, or the entire grandmother trip was a staged alibi. But investigators checked the route. They pulled surveillance footage from a convenience store. The timestamps lined up perfectly. Jeff and his stepdad were cleared of the physical act. Then there was a grandfather, James McGlone. During Brittany's funeral, an event where the entire town gathered, whispering. Looking over their shoulders, James walked up to Brittany's sister, Hope, put his arm around her, and asked a chilling, detached question. Have you gone to see the body yet? Hope froze, because she held a dark secret. Shortly before her death, Brittany had confided in her that James had been sexually abusing her for years. It was a motive as old as time, silencing a victim before the truth could destroy him. Investigators dove into James's life, but the cold, hard facts intervened. Time cards proved he was at work from 7 in the morning until 4:30 in the afternoon on the day of the murder. He was ruled out. So, who was left in this tiny circle of people who actually knew Brittany was sleeping alone in that house? There was one more name, Chad Carr. Chad was 25 years old, a grown man dating Jeff's high school-age sister, Velva. He had no real connection to Brittany. They were just acquaintances, orbiting the same household. But on the morning of May 4th, around 8:30, while Jeff and his stepdad were working on their car in the driveway, Chad stopped by to pick up something for Velva. They told him not to go inside because Brittany was sleeping. Chad left, or at least that is what he wanted them to think. When investigators looked closely at Chad, the red flags started piling up like a multi-car pileup on the interstate. On the afternoon the body was found, Chad and Velva showed up at the scene. A deputy noted that Chad was shaking, visibly nervous, and fidgeting so badly that Velva had to tell him to calm down. When questioned, Chad gave detectives an incredibly detailed, play-by-play alibi of his morning. When a suspect is too detailed, when they tell you every single turn they took and every convenience store they visited before you even ask, they are not remembering, they are constructing. Chad claimed he went to Alco, then went home to change his clothes because it was too hot, then went to Sonic, then dropped off breakfast, and then arrived 15 minutes early for a 10 o'clock eye appointment. But investigators did their homework. They pulled the weather reports. It was mild, high 60s, low 70s, not change your clothes weather. They interviewed the eye doctor staff. Chad did not arrive 15 minutes early. He arrived late at 10:20 and had called them claiming he had car trouble, a detail he conveniently forgot to mention to the police. Between 9:21, when Chad was seen on surveillance leaving Alco, and 10:20, when he arrived at the doctor, there was a gap of 59 minutes. The drive from Alco to Jeff's house was a mere 6 minutes. 59 minutes is more than enough time to walk into an unlocked house, commit a brutal murder, wash yourself clean in the shower, change your bloody clothes, and drive to your appointment. They put Chad on a polygraph. He failed. They searched the home where he was staying. They found a gray ski mask, a pair of bloody shorts, a bloody t-shirt, and 2 pairs of women's underwear. One pair was size 7, Velva's size. The other was a white, size 5 pair. No one in Jeff's house wore a size 5, but Patricia McGlone confirmed that size 5 was Brittany's exact size. Yet, because the search happened 2 weeks after the murder, the underwear had been washed. The DNA was inconclusive. There was no physical link. Then, 8 months later, Velva came forward. The weight of her own suspicion had become too heavy to carry. She told police that when Chad picked her up from school on the afternoon of the murder, he smelled strongly of a very specific body wash, ultra-rich shea butter. It was her body wash, kept in her bathroom at Jeff's house. Chad had no reason to shower there that day. When she asked him if he had taken a shower at her house, he stayed dead silent. You have to be kidding me. And the motive? Velva said Chad had been angry and complaining that Brittany was allowed to sleep over at the house. But he was not. It is a petty, pathetic, childish grudge. But to a mind warped by a need for control and violence, a petty grudge is all it takes. Chad Carr had a history. In 2001, he had attacked a woman named Debbie in a trailer, striking her in the head with a red jack handle, a tool functionally identical to a tire iron. When she bled, he panicked, apologized, and begged her not to tell. He went to prison for that. After he was released, He was accused of assaulting his ex-wife. He had a pattern of targeting women, of using heavy metal tools, of creeping into places where he knew women were alone. In 2022, 15 years after Brittany's life was stolen, a new sheriff arrested Chad Carr for capital murder. Captain Mike Chilson said Chad did not even look surprised. He looked relieved, and when a Texas Ranger spoke to him, Chad immediately started changing his story, claiming he'd actually been in and out of Jeff's house all the time, trying to get ahead of any DNA they might have found. But the justice system is a fickle beast. A grand jury in Texas has 90 days to review a case. After 90 days, they returned a no bill, no trial. The sheriff and the captain believe the grand jury